Hello YouTube divers, this is WaterDive122 and I want to welcome you all to another episode of Magic Metal Mondays. We are back with another album review. We are reviewing another album that came out this year in preparation for my end of the year list. This was one of many albums that I wanted to jump right into. This was by a legendary band. We are talking about A View from the Top of the World by Dream Theater. Now, before we get into this video, Dream Theater is without a doubt one of the best, if not the best, progressive metal bands to have ever set foot and recorded in the studio. Um, coming into this, coming into this album, Dream Theater was kind of like on a backlash, especially with albums like Astonish, which, according to a lot of fans, was a big disappointment. And I say that because I myself am not a diehard Dream Theater fan yet. And I say that because A View from the Top of the World was actually the first album I listened to from Dream Theater. I've heard of Dream Theater for a very long time. I've wanted to check out their music simply because I knew their drummer. Well, I don't personally know him. Their original drummer, Mike Portney. He was a big fan of Neil Peart. He was a big fan of Rush. Rush was a major influence on Dream Theater, and hence why I wanted to check them out. But my gosh, their songs are so long, or at least most of them. Now, don't get me wrong. I really like long songs. I mean, just look at Tales from Topographic Oceans by Yes. But with that album, it actually feels like the parts all connect with me. With Dream Theater, I'm worried that I'm not going to have that success with them, because Yes do it in a way that, in my opinion, not a lot of great bands do, like, with the exception of Pink Floyd and Shine On You Crazy Diamond, and maybe others, and Rush with, their epics and things like that. But with Dream Theater, it would be interesting. So, A View from the Top of the World, because it came out this year, I thought that this would be a great introduction. For the most part, it was a pretty good introduction. It didn't impress me like Swallow the Sun did. I'll give it that. It didn't impress me as much as Swallow the Sun, but it's still a great, in my opinion, it's a pretty good album. Do I think it's top 10 end of the year list material? We'll take a look at the tracks first, and then at the end of the video, I will decide that. So without further ado, let's get into the tracks. So the opening track is The Alien, which, according to someone who posted a poll on YouTube, this song was nominated for a Grammy Award, and it's a pretty interesting opener in a good way. And I say that because it just opens up it straight in your face. Like, there's a lot of heavy metal riffs, like a lot of double bass, like progressive thrash metal type of stuff. And personally, I like that. But when I was listening to this album for the first time, just like a little while ago, that intro just blew me away. It's a great intro, great song, and I think the Grammy nominee for Best Metal Song of the Year award is well deserved. Great song. And then the second song on the album is one of my favorite songs on the album, Answering the Call, which the chorus with like those keyboards and like those guitars in the background, of course with James LeBray's vocals. I will talk about James LeBray further on in the video. But the chorus is just absolutely amazing. The verses are great. The song is just a great song, and it's one of my favorite tracks on the album. It's a great song. And then track 3, Invisible Monster, is where it starts to kind of falter with me. I mean, I don't think it's a bad song by any means. It's just there. I mean, in my opinion, that song is just middle of the road. The chorus is cool. Like, there's some pretty catchy riffs. The solos are amazing. Really, okay. Before we move on, the solos on this album, from the guitar and on keyboards, is just mind-blowing. And if Dream Theater makes solos like this, then, yeah. I forget who their guitar player's name is on this album, but let me know in the comment section below if you so greatly desire to do so, and we'll all be good. Epic. Speaking of epics, the next song on this album, Sleeping Giant, is 10 minutes long, which is the second longest track on the album. And the main riff on this song is just so catchy. Like, there are a lot of catchy riffs on this album. And same thing applies here. Sleeping Giant is, again, it's better than Invisible Monster, but it's not as good as The Alien or Answering the Call. It's, again, it's kind of middle of the road for me. I mean, maybe one day it might grow on me, but, as of right now, it's just kind of whatever for me. But then, track number 5, Transcending Time, is a whole nother ballgame. This song is a masterpiece. Easily my favorite track on the album. This song got me into the album, and basically, honestly, this song might have just gotten me into Dream Theater. Maybe. Who knows? But this song is an absolute masterpiece. Dream Theater really shows their influences. Like, I hear the keyboard riff on Transcending Time right before James LeBray's vocals come in, and I'm like, oh my god, is Rick Wakeman playing on this album? I mean, I love Rick Wakeman. He's my favorite keyboard player of all time. The dude's just a freaking monster, and that synthesizer solo right before James comes in on the vocals sounds just like something Rick Wakeman would do. I mean, just like Rick Wakeman. The guitar riff that James is singing is awesome. Now, this is where I will go into that James LeBray kind of praise here. I know a lot of people aren't really crazy about James LeBray's vocals, and that's mainly the reason why many people are not a big fan of Dream Theater. I personally don't mind James LeBray's vocals. Yeah, he can sound pretty interesting at times, and yes, he can sound a little bit cheesy, a little bit annoying, and he's one of those singers where on certain songs his voice might get on your nerves, but personally, I don't mind James LeBray's vocals. I just mainly care about the quality and the music. The quality and music is pretty good on this album, but we're gonna continue with that. But Transcending Time is an absolute masterpiece. I love this track. And then track number 6 is, again, another average track for me, Awaken the Master. Not really much to say about this song, except it's definitely the heaviest song on the album. And, this song definitely feels like a band like, Slipknot, or System of a Down, or heck, even Breaking Benjamin, for example, turned progressive. Turned progressive, really, really punchy. Really, really punchy. Awaken the Master, overall, not a terrible song, but it's one of those 9-minute songs where it just goes like that. Like, you listen to the entire album, like, when I was listening to this album, Awaken the Master just went by like that. I mean, it's just crazy. And then the final track on this album, the 20-minute opus that is the title track, A View from the Top of the World. This is a really, really strong track, and it's a great way to end off the album. If the album started off with a bang, with The Alien, then it ended with a bang, with A View from the Top of the World. There are so many parts to this song that you could probably argue that you can't keep up with what's going on within the song, but overall, if you really sit there and take it all in, it's a joy. It's a phenomenal ride. Now, yeah, it is not the best progressive epic, progressive rock, progressive metal, whatever the heck you want to call it. It's not the best epic song I've ever heard. I mean, trust me, there are way better epics, but this is not a bad epic at all. This is a really great song. I mean, there's harp solos in here. The main riff is killer. The middle part where it's kind of slow and quiet is amazing. The ending with those pianos. James LeBray's vocals again. The solos, crazy, crazy. This song is all over the place in a good way, and it's probably my second favorite song on the album, behind Transcending Time. But the gap in between those two songs is enormous. But with that said, that concludes this. That concludes the track by track analysis. And now let's get my final rating of this album. This is tough for me to rate because, on one hand, the average tracks kind of hold it down for me. But then you have songs like Transcending Time, which, just goes up and up and up every time. So my final rating of the story would have to be a 9 out of 10. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 mainly because of the fact that, the three average songs on here, Sleeping Giant, Invisible Monster, and Awaken the Master, kind of hold it down for me. But other songs, like the title track, like Transcending Time, and like Answering the Call, for example, raise up the rankings. Now, this was not a bad introduction to Dream Theater. You might see this on the end of the year list. Only time will tell at this point. But overall, this is not a bad album. And I suggest to anyone who loves progressive metal and is especially a Dream Theater fan who has yet to check this album out, but then again, I don't know why you wouldn't, then please give it a shot. And like I said, for my personal introduction to the band, this was not a bad album at all. This was not a bad album to start out on at all. So if you're just getting into Dream Theater, maybe you start here, maybe you start on some of their other albums, maybe you start off with their classic albums. You do you, but I would totally recommend starting here. This is a solid album. Solid album. So with that said, that concludes this edition of Magic Metal Mondays. Thank you so much for watching, my fellow YouTube divers. This is Water Eye 122 signing out, ready to dive into more fun on YouTube. Thanks for watching.